The Franco-Siamese War of 1893 was a conflict between the French Third Republic and the Kingdom of Siam.Auguste Pavie, French vice-consul in Luang Prabang in 1886, was the chief agent in furthering French interests in Laos. His intrigues, which took advantage of Siamese weakness in the region and periodic invasions by Vietnamese rebels from Tonkin, increased tensions between Bangkok and Paris. Following the conflict, the Siamese agreed to cede Laos to France, an act that led to the significant expansion of French Indochina. Context: the conflict started when French Indochina's Governor-General Jean de Lanessan sent Auguste Pavie as consul to Bangkok to bring Laos under French rule. The government in Bangkok, mistakenly believing that they would be supported by the British government, refused to concede territory east of the Mekong and instead reinforced their military and administrative presence. Events were brought to a head by two separate incidents when Siamese governors in Cam Ranh and Nong Khai expelled 3 French merchants from the Middle Mekong in September 1892, 2 of them, Champenois and Esquilot, on suspicion of opium smuggling. Shortly afterwards, the French consul in Luang Prabang, Massy, feverish and discouraged, committed suicide on his way back to Saigon. Back in France, these incidents were used by the colonial lobby to stir up nationalistic anti-Siamese sentiment, as a pretext for intervention. The death of Massy left Auguste Pavie as the new French consul. In March 1893, Pavie demanded that the Siamese evacuate all military posts on the east side of the Mekong River south of Cam Ranh, claiming that the land belonged to Vietnam. To back up these demands, the French sent the gunboat Lutan to Bangkok, where it was moored on the Chao Phraya next to the French legation. Conflict: when Siam rejected the French demands, de Lanessan sent 3 military columns into the disputed region to assert French control in April 1893. 8 small Siamese garrisons west of the Mekong withdrew upon the arrival of the central column, but the advance of the other columns met with resistance. In the north, the French came under siege on the island of Kung, with the capture of an officer, Toro. In the south, the occupation proceeded smoothly until an ambush by the Siamese on the village of Kengkurt resulted in the killing of French police Inspector Gros Guerin. Killing of Inspector Gros Guerin. Inspector Gros Guerin was a French inspector and commander of a Vietnamese militia in Laos. Like Auguste Pavie, he had been engaged in several exploratory expeditions in the region. He was a member of one of the French armed columns dispatched in April 1893 by de Lanessan to cross the Annamite Range into the Lao area of Cam Ranh, and to occupy the disputed territory. The column was at first successful in evicting the Siamese commissioner at Cam Ranh by the 25th of May. Shortly afterwards, on the 5th of June, the Siamese commissioner organized a surprise ambush on the village of Kiang Ket, where Gros Guerin, confined to his sick bed, had encamped with his militia. The commissioner had apparently been instructed by Siamese government representatives to compel their retirement by fighting, if necessary, to the utmost of their strength. The ambush resulted in the razing of the village and the killing of Gros Guerin and 17 Vietnamese. The incident and the death of Gros Guerin became known as the Affair of Cam Ranh, and was ultimately used as a pretext for strong French intervention. Panam Incident. As a result, relations between Bangkok and the West soured, with France demanding reparations. The British sent 3 Navy ships to the mouth of the Chao Phraya, in case evacuation of British citizens became necessary. In turn, the French went one step further in July 1893 by ordering 2 of their ships, the sloop Inconstant and the gunboat Cometa, to sail up to the Chao Phraya towards Bangkok, without the permission of the Siamese. They came under fire from the fort at Panim on 13 July 1893. The French returned fire and forced their way to Bangkok. With guns trained on the Grand Palace in Bangkok, the French delivered an ultimatum to the Siamese on 20 July to hand over the territory, to withdraw their garrisons there, to pay an indemnity of 2 million francs in reparation for the fighting at Panam, and to punish those responsible for the killings in the disputed territory. When Siam did not immediately comply unconditionally to the ultimatum, the French blockaded the Siamese coast. In the end, the Siamese submitted fully to the French conditions, finding no support from the British. In addition, the French demanded as guarantees the temporary occupation of Chanthaburi and the demilitarization of Battambang, Siem Reap, and a 25-kilometer-wide zone on the west bank of the Mekong. The conflict led to the signature of the Franco-Siamese Treaty on 3 October 1893. Franco-Siamese trial. Following the killing of Groguran, the commissioner of the Kamuon district, Phra Yot, was acknowledged by his government to have been the responsible official, although was he initially acquitted of wrongdoing in a trial in March 1894. A Franco-Siamese mixed court was subsequently convened in June 1894. The court determined that Phra Yot had brought extra forces to surround the house in Kiang Ket occupied by the Il Groguran, outnumbering his small Vietnamese militia, that Groguran and those Vietnamese who had not managed to escape had been killed and the house subsequently set on fire on the orders of Phra Yot. In a joint agreement between the Siamese and the French, Phra Yot was condemned to 20 years of penal servitude. The solicitor for the defense was the Ceylonese lawyer William Alfred Tilake, who was later appointed Attorney General of Siam and granted a peerage by the king. The Royal Thai Army fought Phra Yot Yang Quan in Nakhon Phanom province on the border between Thailand and Laos commemorates Phra Yot. Consequences. The Siamese agreed to cede Laos to France, significantly expanding French Indochina. In 1896, France signed a treaty with Britain defining the border between Laos and British territory in Upper Burma. The Kingdom of Laos became a protectorate, initially placed under the Governor-General of Indochina in Hanoi. Pavie, who almost single-handedly brought Laos under French rule, saw to the officialization in Hanoi. The French and British both had strong interests in controlling parts of Indochina. Twice in the 1890s, they were on the verge of war over two different routes leading to Yunnan. But several difficulties discouraged them from war. The geography of the land made troop movements difficult, making warfare more costly and less effective. Both countries were fighting a difficult conflict within the respective colonies. Malaria was common and deadly. Ultimately, the imagined trade routes never really came into use. In 1904, the French and the British put aside their many differences with the Entente Cordiale, ending this dispute in southeastern Asia. Gallery.